So data has been an omnipresent thematic in everything about which we've been speaking today.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about the role that you, how do you define your role in the ecosystem of programmatic?
Yep. Very straightforward. I think of X8's role as fuel. And it's the fuel, it's data fuel that makes audience targeting and programmatic buying happen. We've got great partners like Mogul and other players in traditional display that utilize the fuel to make their audience targeting happen. Just a couple months ago, we did a survey of 700 people and across the ecosystem, platforms, agencies, and advertisers, and 88% of them said they really believe in audience targeting. They believe it's effective. In fact, 70% of them plan to increase budgets towards that by up to 40% or more. And so let me tie it back to the story the question you'd asked, which was, what's your role? At a pure level, we're trying not to be all things to all people. We're not trying to be multiple platforms and black boxes and magic clouds. And for X8 right now, we're really focused on providing the best, I call smart data fuel to power the ad tech and specifically here, programmatic video buying.
So I want to deconstruct the data conversation a little bit and separate first from third party, right?
Okay.
Chris sort of brought CRM into the conversation. Let's start with first party. Does programmatic sort of, preclude that you're a good CRM player? Like, do you have a good CRM platform or loyalty platform? And I mean, because if first party data is key,
yeah.
And you're not a company that has a high touch customer relationship, does that sort of put you behind the 8 ball in order to drive ROI on programmatic?
I don't think it precludes you, but it will slow you down. Okay, you can still be successful in programmatic without deep first party CRM data. Now, if I was Salesforce.com, I would sit here and say, of course you need to have it. And if I was Adobe, I'd say, of course you need. It doesn't completely preclude you. But it is just an important topic that I think there's a misunderstanding of, is the power of first party as a seed that you can amplify with third party data. Now, if you don't have that seed, you can still utilize third party data to reach the audience you want. I think there are 3 things that I'd love to share with the team, and they apply to programmatic video, but they apply to programmatic display as well when you think about data. First one is the data accurate? And viewability is a hot topic. Gosh, if you do the discussions we have about data accuracy, it's actually just as...
Okay, but that's post-campaign measurement, right?
No. Actually, when you're running the campaign, utilizing the data daily and saying, am I accurate? Am I reaching the demos that I need to hit? Okay. I think one thing is data accuracy, and we are working really hard with people like Comscore and Nielsen and other third-party verifiers to say, is the data getting better? Because it can get better. It absolutely can get better. The second part is the data actionable? And meaning, it's nice to have data, but it needs to have scale to make a difference. Like, do you have 1 million data points, cookie points that I can execute against, or 100 million? And so is it data accurate? If it's accurate, is it actionable enough to make a difference?
So apply that to a brand for me.
Oh, apply that to a brand.
For first party, because remember, we're first party data.
Yeah, so if I'll take for an example, Subaru. You're a car company, and you want to reach a demographic of 18 to 34-year-old family members, male or female. And you say, okay, I believe in the data accuracy that you bring to the table, third-party data provider, but how many of those people are in your data pool? Is it 1 million or is it 10 million? What's your reach? And if it's not large enough for the campaign to make a difference in their eventual sales or their goal, whether it's brand lift or actually driving them to a specific call to action, which oftentimes actually is now the Facebook page, then they're not interested. And I think that programmatic video, I think so let me step back, small narrative. I think video is beautiful because it tells a story. The problem right now with programmatic video is that there's not enough inventory. I don't know if that's been said or not. I mean, it's coming, but
you can say it loud and proud.
Yeah, I mean,
it's okay. You don't have to mumble it.
Yeah, it's not there
right.
yet. Okay, and I think it's a chicken and egg thing. Is when will the investments come in inventory? Well, when people believe there's enough reach there, right? And so,
By the way, that's also the biggest challenge that publishers have in this space as well, right? So it's interesting that a lot of the challenges that we talk about from the procurement side are shared by the publishing side, and there still seems to be a confluence of conflicting, business agendas when if you listen to in a vacuum and you just take it abstractly, it sounds like the same problems.
It is. And so two other quick points. I think it all goes back to the consumer. As consumers spend more and more time ingesting video in a digital format from traditional, I think that's when the swing will happen. It's not some magic way. The second thing I think it's important to share with the team is folks have been asking me, what does video look like for you guys? Because think of us as fuel. If video is getting better, more fuel is being used, theoretically, right? So video is now up to 10% of our business, and it's going to double this year. Okay, it's going very, very fast, which is exciting, and I think that forebodes well for folks in the industry.
And let's shift over to third-party data.
Yep.
Right. Where when you're not sort of on a performance as much myopically focused on performance of the media, where does third party fit into that?
Where does third party fit into that? Let's say more. I'm just want to make sure I understand.
I'm going back to this conversation, and let me give you more context. My lens, which sounds like semantics, but I think it's really important around the difference between targeting, right, versus being more efficient and eliminating waste. They are different, right? And we've seen that in TV. There's a ton of research that it's not about addressability, meaning reaching the people that you want to talk to, or you think to whom your message will resonate. It's more about just eliminating more of the people to whom it doesn't. Right? And that's where data is the enabler in that situation. So third party is a lot about mining those people with whom you as your brand has relevance, right? But if we're up funnel, where's that fit in?
It's again a good question. Let me answer that by comparing and contrasting video with display. So what you're finding in display programmatic is folks are stepping back and saying there's 3 components of the funnel, and let's just say there's 2. There's the brand side and there's direct response. At the top of the funnel and the display side, people are hitting it with demographics, age, gender, all that good stuff. Lower funnel, they're using interest and intent. Okay, they're pushing people down the funnel. If you think about video and programmatic video, right now it's a numbers game, and folks are focused on the top of the funnel, and they're using demos, because if you start to go down the funnel in programmatic video and say, well, I want to run a campaign that's very interest or intent oriented, actually the data starts to get really small. The overlaps become really small.
Right.
So to answer your question is right now compared to display, programmatic video is focusing, I see much more in the top of the funnel. There's just some research, I forget who published that, 60 to 70% of the programmatic video data is happening at the top of the funnel with branding. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does.
It's good to compare and contrast.
But I think that's why. Again, we're in the artistic state of a nascent space, right? So I think that there's no. That's the issue. Is it's many different mediums coming together. So I just want to wrap with. Because I think you've done a great job of sort of making things digestible into lists. If there were 2-3 things in regards to data and video specifically for a brand CMO that you feel they should double down or invest on.
Yep.
Okay.
A brand CMO. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I know who that person. Okay, the brand CMO.
Yeah.
If there are 2 to 3 things, first one would be, am I sure that I'm utilizing the combination of my first and third party data? Okay. That's really important. And this is a hard discussion to have. You know who's really having these discussions is Accenture and Deloitte, because they've been living in the CRM world, and now they're actually going to the CMOs and CIOs and saying, hey, we've worked with your first party data, we can take it to third party data.
That's interesting.
So Accenture Interactive is really doing that. So I'm not saying go talk to them, Mr. CMO or Mrs. CMO, I'm saying, are you leveraging your first and third party data adequately? The second thing I would talk about or think about is, how accurate is the data? I'll keep going back to that. And who says it's accurate?
Whose job is it to police that? Is it the CMO's job?
Absolutely not. The CMO is pretty busy. They're not policing how accurate the data is. I think as an industry, there's some really good options for third-party data providers like Comscore and Nielsen to play that role. I don't want to say they're the police, but they are. And I think a lot of people confuse accuracy with precision. This is an important point. When you have a target and you're shooting arrows at something, accuracy is how close to the middle you get. Precision is how clustered the arrows are. They could be at the very top right. So saying the data that we're using, how accurate is it? And I think the third one is, I'll go back to the actionable piece, is the data that's being utilized driving an action that drives value at scale? And I think that's a very important one. And I think with programmatic video, it's stepping back and saying, are there offline sales that are being triggered off of that, not just branding? Like what's the ROI? And
that's attribution.
It is, and it's
just saying. That's what attribution is.
I'll make it even more simple. It's like dollars. It's like sales.
Yeah, but every CMO or brand manager that I talk to says what keeps them up at night is attribution, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we are indirectly coming back, which to me is comforting because it means we do sort of all have a similar carrot.
Exactly,
right?
and so and you know, if folks want to learn more about it, they can go to our site exlate.com, and we've got a couple of things on accuracy and how actionable data can be, and some kind of the top 10 lists about how you know if your big data is smart data. And that's a list of 10 things that if you're asking a CMO and frankly even a CIO, like there's a lot of big data projects going on, it's noise. It's really noise. So.
And this is what I think is really interesting from the publisher side of the business right now. And I look at my client portfolio, and the conversations I'm having with my clients who are typically publishers are, is your competitive advantage in content or is it in technology?